In a previous conversation we had, you said something that really rung in my mind, which is that many people who become addicted to things have this feeling that normal life isn't interesting enough.
I think that life for humans has always been hard, but I think that now it's harder in unprecedented ways. And I think that the way that life is really hard now is that it actually is really boring. And the reason that it's boring is because all of our survival needs are met. I mean, we don't even have to leave our homes to meet every single physical need, as long as you're of a certain level of financial well-being. If you look at leisure time, for example, so people without a high school education have 42% more leisure time than people with a college degree. My point here is that life is hard now in this really weird way, in that we don't really have anything that we have to do. So we're all forced to make stuff up, whether it's being a scientist or being an Olympic athlete or, climbing Mount Everest. And people really vary in their need for friction. And some people need a lot more than others. And if they don't have it, they're really, really unhappy. And I do think that a lot of the people that I see with addiction and other forms of mental illness are people who need more friction. Like, they're unhappy, not necessarily because there's something wrong with their brain, but because their brain is not suited to this world. What's so pervasive in our narrative now is like, find your passion, and in a way that's good because it has people out in the world and seeking. But in a way, it can also be misleading in the sense that I think people aren't entirely aware that the world is a hard place and that life is hard and that we're all kind of making it up. To me, one of the most significant findings in neuroscience in the last 75 years is that pleasure and pain are co-located, which means the same parts of the brain that process pleasure also process pain, and they work like a balance. So when we feel pleasure, our balance tips one way. When we feel pain, it tips in the opposite direction. And one of the overriding rules governing this balance is that it wants to stay level. So it doesn't want to remain tipped very long to pleasure or to pain. And with any deviation from neutrality, the brain will work very hard to restore a level balance, or what scientists call homeostasis. And the way the brain does that is, with any stimulus to one side, there will be a tip in equal and opposite amount to the other side.
It's like the principal laws of physics.
Yes, right, yeah. Right. So I like to watch YouTube videos. When I watch YouTube videos of American Idol, it tips to the side of pleasure. And then when I stop watching it, I have a come down, right, which is a tip to the equal and opposite amount on the other side. And that's that moment of wanting to watch one more YouTube video. And here's really the key. If I keep indulging again and again and again, ultimately, I have so much on the pain side, right, that I've essentially reset my brain to what we call like an anhedonic or lacking in joy type of state, which is a dopamine deficit state. The way in which pain can become the main driver is because I've indulged so much in these high reward behaviors or substances that my brain has had to compensate by way down regulating my own dopamine, such that even when I'm not doing that drug, I'm in a dopamine deficit state, which is akin to a clinical depression. I have anxiety, irritability, insomnia, dysphoria, and a lot of mental preoccupation with using again or getting the drug. And so that's the piece there. There's the single use, which easily passes, but it's the chronic use that can then reset really our dopamine thresholds, and then nothing is enjoyable. So I think that is really what I want people to tune into and get an awareness around, because once you tune into it, you can see it a lot. And then when you begin to see it, I think it gives people kind of a way to imagine what they're experiencing on a neurobiological level and understand it. And in that understanding, get some mastery over it, which is really what this is all about.